On the 16th of April 1946, inside the gymnasium of Nuremberg prison, the execution chamber, the most senior member of the German military of the Second World War was led to his execution, and he gazed up to the gallows. Looking on were a number of witnesses to the executions of those remaining members of Hitler's government and the Nazi Party. Wilhelm Keitel's execution, though, did not go very well at all, and it was considered one of the most botched in the aftermath of the Second World War. Keitel was a man who was a chief of the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, the high command of the German military, and he was at the end of the conflict brought to the Nuremberg Trials alongside other prominent Nazis such as Rudolf Hess, Alfred Jodl and Hermann Göring. He was condemned for a number of different war crimes, but he was also a man who was very loyal to Adolf Hitler. Join us today as we look at the execution of Wilhelm Keitel, and as always, to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. As a young man, Wilhelm Keitel was born into a comfortable household, and his father held a significant amount of land, but after finishing school he sought a career inside of the German military. He started off as an officer cadet inside the Prussian army, but was not allowed to join the cavalry because he was viewed as a commoner, so he had to settle in a field artillery regiment. As World War I broke out across Europe, Keitel was fighting in Flanders on the Western Front and in the trenches, but he was seriously injured when a shell fragment hit his arm, and he spent a period of time recovering. But more promotions came as he was made a captain, and at the end of the conflict he was a member of the Reichswehr, the Treaty of Versailles limiting German army, which was made up of initially only 100,000 soldiers. But Keitel was a man who also joined right-wing paramilitary groups, and he was a Freikorps member, who was not happy with the Weimar government and the aftermath of the First World War. He helped to organise the Freikorps and gained a lot of respect for this, and he later became a member of the Ministry of War in 1929, but when Hitler took control he was serving as a head of the organisational department of the military. Keitel was a man who was a key part of Hitler's plans, and he was someone who was very loyal to Hitler. Hitler wanted to rearm Germany in secret and build up its military might, ready for another world war, and Keitel helped in organising secret projects to build tanks and recruit forces into the army, breaking the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. He was later in 1939 made a Major General and was appointed the Chief of the Reich Ministry of War's Armed Forces Office. But Hitler in 1938 seized command of the German army, and Keitel was then given his highest ranking position, the Chief of the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, which made him practically the Minister of War, and he was now seen as the most senior soldier in Germany, and he was always at cabinet meetings with Hitler. But to many inside of Hitler's government, Wilhelm Keitel was nothing more than a yes-man, and someone who Hitler had control of. He was a puppet and Keitel would do anything Hitler wanted, and he was actually seen as rather terrible at his job. Keitel was the Chief of Staff and Hitler's number 2 in the armed forces, and some even mocked him, calling him La Keitel, calling him nothing more than a lackey, and Göring even referred to him as a nodding donkey. Hitler would unleash some brutal tirades aimed at Keitel, and it was once said that he has the brains of a movie usher, but was made the highest ranking officer in the army, because the man is as loyal as a dog. Keitel, though, was the front of the German army's efforts during the Second World War, and he referred to Hitler as the greatest commander of all time when German forces powered through Poland and then into France. He was present in the negotiations regarding the French surrender, and Hitler would then turn his ideas towards the Soviet Union, and he planned Operation Barbarossa. In secret and in his mind, Wilhelm Keitel knew that this was possibly a step too far for the German army in 1941. However, he did not object to it, and also refused to hear anyone's concerns who voiced them. Hitler had overall say with the German military at the time, but Keitel would, as the war went on, continue to carry out whatever the dictator wanted. When a bomb exploded inside of Hitler's Wolfslayer headquarters, Wilhelm Keitel was put to work punishing those members of the military who had plotted the coup. This resulted in the executions of around 5,000 people. However, at the end of the conflict he stayed close to Hitler in the Führer bunker and continued to be a part of the daily war briefings. At the end he did decide to try and flee, and he managed to get to Flensburg to join up with the government headed up by the new president of Nazi Germany, Karl Dönitz, following Hitler's death. However, he was arrested days later, and he signed the German unconditional surrender. Keitel was then brought to the Nuremberg Trials, and it was said he had full understanding of the invasion of Poland, and also he knew much about the mass slaughter of civilians at the hands of the Einsatzgruppe inside occupied lands. Keitel's signature was also on a number of illegal documents, which gave permission for soldiers to execute prisoners of war without a trial. Keitel believed it was his job to rid the world of Bolshevism, and he ordered the executions of communists, and signed further decrees that allowed the killing of enemy commandos without trial too. Whilst at the Nuremberg Trials, he was indicted on all 4 counts and charges, and these illegal orders came back to haunt him. He knew that these were against the rules and laws of war, but he said he could not go against Hitler's wishes. He said at the trial that, as these atrocities developed one from the other, step by step, without any knowledge of the consequences, destiny took its tragic course with fateful consequence. Keitel knew what the sentence would be for him, and he would have preferred to have been executed by a firing squad as a member of the military, suffering a soldier's death, but this was not allowed, and Wilhelm Keitel was to be executed like a common criminal and murderer on the gallows alongside the other condemned defendants. The Nuremberg executions took place on the 16th of October 1946, and 10 executions took place early in the morning. The man who was carrying these out was John C. Woods, an American executioner, who is remembered in history for his botching work, and the Nuremberg executions certainly did not go well. The method Woods used was the standard drop method, but he was also having to work with a trapdoor that was not working well, and it was too small for someone to fall through without hitting the sides, and sometimes a trapdoor smashed a condemned on the head as they fell through. Wilhelm Keitel's execution was one of those that did not go well at all. He was executed second following Joachim von Ribbentrop, the Nazi foreign minister, and he was the first military commander or leader to have been executed under the concept of international law, which brought professional soldiers to justice for their war crimes and actions. He walked into the execution chamber 2 minutes after von Ribbentrop had plunged through the trapdoor, and the body of the foreign minister was still writhing around behind the curtain on the first scaffold, and the tight rope could be seen. Keitel, when he entered the room, seemed rather relaxed to begin with, and witnesses claimed he had his head held high, whilst the executioner's assistant secured his hands together, and he confidently then strode towards the gallows. He confirmed his identity and then walked up the steps of the gallows, almost as if he was expecting to receive some form of salute from the guards. He did not need the assistance of the American guards and seemed to pride himself on going to his death all by himself. When prompted for any final words, Wilhelm Keitel stated that, "I call on Almighty God to have mercy on the German people. More than 2 million German soldiers went to their deaths for the fatherland before me. I now follow my sons, all for Germany." After this, John C. Woods then placed a black cap over his head so he could not see what was happening. Then the noose was firmly secured around his neck. Woods positioned Keitel over the trapdoor. He then released this, and Keitel went through the trapdoor, but things noticeably did not go well. Keitel's neck was not snapped by the noose, and it took a staggering 24 minutes for him to die. As he fell through the trapdoor too, the door smashed him on the head, and he was left bleeding heavily from behind the curtain, and this was not intended. Keitel behind the curtain slowly strangled to death, and he was convulsing, but Woods then continued with the hangings, leaving Wilhelm Keitel to succumb to his arduous and lengthy fate. Woods, the executioner, later claimed that, "I hanged those 10 Nazis and I'm proud of it. I wasn't nervous. A fellow can't afford to have any nerves in this business. I want to put in a good word for those GIs who helped me. They all did swell. I'm trying to get them a promotion. The way I look at this hanging job, somebody has to do it. I got into it kind of by accident, years ago in the States." Woods showed little bother about these botches, and was more concerned that he executed the Nazis like Keitel, rather than the manner in which he did it. Wilhelm Keitel was a man who appeared to many as the most senior figure of the German army's command. However, he was simply a man who was just very loyal to Hitler, and who would carry out anything the dictator wanted. He was a soldier who flagrantly knew he was breaking laws and rules of war when he issued illegal orders, and he knew that his actions resulted in the executions and slaughter of thousands of people. But inside the execution chamber of Nuremberg prison, he experienced a horrific execution which did not go how it was intended to. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.